There we go. I turned you. There we are. Well, thank you, Jeannine, for organizing this. And I'm really going to turn everything, Jeannine and Rachel and the students who organized this orientation and this event for the School for the Study of Canada. We're sorry that we're not there in person to meet you, but, we will be one day. Don't worry. This won't go on forever. And what I'm going to do today is I first want to introduce our special guest, Tom Symons, who's with us. Tom was the founding president of Trent University and is really the founder of Canadian Studies at Trent and probably in Canada as well, I would say. So we're really pleased to have Tom today. He lives in Peterborough and he is always interested and happy to participate. And I invited him here today to meet the new students that are coming in, and so that you can also know that Tom is, as well as the faculty that you're going to meet today, that Tom is here to talk to and would love to speak to you anytime. Although I've acknowledged that I'm speaking from the home of Tom Symons, what has also been asked by the students, and I think rightfully so, to respectfully acknowledge that that this meeting that we're in involves Trent, and that Trent is located on the treaty and traditional territory of the Mississauga and Asabec. And I would pronounce that better, but I have a mask over me. So we offer our gratitude to First Peoples for their care for and teachings about our earth and our relations, and may we honor these traditions. And having said that, shall I then turn this meeting back over to Jeannine to introduce our faculty, who are then going to speak to you about their interests and their courses that they teach, so that you can get a little bit of better perspective of what you're in for. And then we'll have a little bit more discussion about our student groups and our scholarships and bursaries. And then at the end, I would like to give Tom a couple of minutes to speak to you about the fact that he is always looking and welcomes students to work with him on special projects and courses, and maybe he could also have a word with you about the sort of possibilities it might be if you need to do some research working with him. So, thank you. Yeah. Okay. So, Jeannine, did you want to introduce our, or time, I suppose, our faculty? I have an order of worship starting with Whitney, working through Chris and David and Mike and Mark. Is that the order that we're
yes,
proceed?
I believe that's the order we did. And if everybody, it looks like everybody is here. So yeah, however you would like, each will speak for a few minutes and introduce their courses and their research and welcome you. So thank you.
Perfect. Okay, perfect. So the formalities have ended. Let the fun begin. Whitney, I guess, is first up, huh?
Well, hi, everybody. Welcome to Canadian Studies, or welcome back to Canadian Studies. I see a few familiar faces and look forward to, I guess, interacting with you virtually for this term, which is a bit of a strange scenario, but I think we'll all be learning together about how best to make this work and still develop our strong sense of collegiality and our family approach that we've really, I think, try to espouse in the School for the Study of Canada in the Canadian Studies program, which even there, look at me, I'm getting nervous because I'm in front of a screen and getting tangled over my tongue, which in person would be easy to overcome because all of you give me good vibes and all that good stuff. Anyways, I'm Whitney. As you can see, a little quirky from time to time. I'm a professor in Canadian Studies and also the Canada Research Chair in the study of the Canadian North. So a lot of my research focuses on relationships in Canada's Arctic and northern regions. I'm trained as a historian, but do a lot of work on contemporary politics, and I'm involved in a whole bunch of different research projects, which I'm happy to chat with some of you about in due course. This term, I'm teaching the contemporary Canadian North in a circumpolar context, Canadian Studies 3243, online course that I taught once before, and I'm really looking forward to interacting with students on in a virtual place. Usually, I also have stories about having traveled north, but I'm now reaching my 6-month anniversary today of not having traveled and left the farm that I live on. So like many of you, I'm looking forward to whatever kind of human contact we can have and idea contact we can have through Zoom in the coming months.
Okay, so I suppose next, why don't we ask Chris if he'd like to speak next?
Okay, thanks, Heather. Hi, I'm Christopher Dummitt. I'm a professor in Canadian Studies and History here at Trent. I am teaching this semester 2 courses. One is History 2236, or Canadian Studies 2236, Rebellions and Responsible Government. And I'm actually excited for this one because even if we hadn't been going in this crazy pandemic moment, this course was already going to be based around a podcast I've created, where the podcast that is already available to people on iTunes and Spotify, wherever you get a podcast, provides essentially the basis of the lecture material. So it's already there as an audio podcast. And then the in-person or in Zoom sessions that we're going to have are really going to focus on kind of examining the documents for the time and actually learning how to write. And the students will, in those courses, create a podcast episode of their own. So instead of writing a normal essay, you'll learn how to and practice creating an actual podcast episode with a good deal of assistance on how to use that technology. And then I'm teaching a 4th-year course on the history of the self and the idea of the self, which is really a fancy way of saying it's a history of how we've come to be so fixated today on identity politics. So it's never a more timely course than that. I also teach, and if there's any first years there, in the winter I teach one of the Canadian Studies first year courses, Canada: Images and Realities of a Nation. So I'm looking forward to teaching that back in January, as well as some other things. I'm a historian of Canadian politics and culture. I don't go north like Professor Lackenbauer does. I don't tend to travel in the Yukon. Much less exciting. I go to Ottawa and spend time in the National Archives. But my most recent book, not quite the most recent, but the last book I like to talk about a lot is a book about Mackenzie King, our longest serving Prime Minister, and his strange, bizarre personal life, and how Canadians came to just find out about it in the 1950s, 60s, 70s after he died. And maybe even more importantly, why we thought it was okay for us to look into his dirty secrets. So I'm interested in politics, but also the semi-cultural side of politics. And I'm very much looking forward to meeting all the Canadian Studies students in lots of different ways this semester. Thanks.
Super. Thank you, Chris. Is David Tuff there?
Hi, Heather. Yeah, I can go next. I have, just to warn you, there's vacuuming and a small child and a dog all around me. So we may have a little bit of noise bleed there. I am David Tuff. I'm a contract instructor in the School for the Study of Canada. This term I'm teaching 2 courses. First year course, Conflicted Canada, which I've taught. This is the 3rd time teaching it now, and I'm pretty excited about. I made some changes to the content that I'm pretty excited about. And I'm teaching a 3rd year course called Canada, State, Society, and Power. Society, State, and Power, something like that, which introduces students to the Canadian political economy tradition, which is something I studied in my PhD. Haven't really gone back to since then. So I am a historian by training. My first book is on the history of income taxation and popular ideas of inequality and fairness in taxation. So I published my first book 2 years ago now, and I just about to publish a second book that's an edited collection on taxation. And my current research is on the 60s and the anti-poverty initiatives of the federal government in the 1960s. So I've taught Canada in the 60s for a number of years now. And so that's my other, the welfare state and taxation and the 60s are my two research focuses. But mostly you'll be interacting with me in either Conflicted Canada or in the 3rd year Canadian political economy course, both of which I'm looking forward to teaching.
Super. Thank you. Thank you, David. And next, I think we'll go to Mike Perry. Mike, are you there?
Hello, everybody. Hello, Trent Canadian Studies students. I'm Mike Perry, and as you can see behind me, I'm trying to wring out every last possible drop of the good weather and summertime season. I'm up here on Anishinaabe Treaty 6 traditional territory, also known as the Kawarthas, which is either Wyandot or Anishinaabe, translated to English means land of many happy lakes, roughly translated. And so we try and keep that going up here in the Kawartha Lakes just next to Peterborough. By day, I am the executive director of the family health team in Kawartha Lakes, and I'm a lawyer and social worker by profession, working on my PhD at Trent in Canadian Studies. My area of interest is the potential impact of climate change on modern slavery and its most current form, human trafficking. I also have an academic interest in leadership and dynamic leadership for progressive social change, and also law and public policy, obviously, from especially from a critical perspective, critical legal studies, anti-oppressive frameworks, diversity, inclusion, those approaches to the law. And so I'm really honored to be part of the faculty here as a sessional instructor, teaching foundations of Canadian law and the role of law in Canada at CAST 2090H. And I'm really looking forward to learning and teaching together in that learning environment. We'll try definitely to create a very, not just a safe or a respectful place of learning, but also a bold space to canvas new ideas and to produce some of our own knowledge, work on some legal skills, of course, for the practice of law, and talk about opportunities going forward, but also looking at law in a critical context, not just looking at the nuts and bolts, but how the law fits in, the assumptions, affirming some of the positive elements within Canadian studies. Where is its space within the other elements of Canadian studies? And we'll be exploring that together over the next 13 weeks. Again, that's CAST 2090H if you're looking for an elective or are interested in the study, the critical analysis, or perhaps a career in law and legal studies. So I'm just really looking forward to hearing from you all as students and spending time together learning this fall. One good thing about being out here on the land, you don't have to wear a mask. So I'm pretty happy about that, and it's been great to be here. Thank you, Heather, and thank you, Tom, for appearing. Tom, we met at your house in March with Tom Mulcair. Hello?
Sorry, Heather was muted, so I'm gonna unmute her and see if
No problem.
Yeah. I'm not sure. The unmute's not working. Technology defeats me all the time.
Well, so students know, and I'm sure they're aware, Tom Symons is a living legend of Canadian studies.
Yeah. Okay, so I think Heather's muted for some reason, and thank you so much, Mike. I think the next. Oh, there she is.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, I'm back, and I couldn't resist saying, as Mike said, it's nice not to be masked, but I want you to know that this mask is courtesy of Jeannine, and if I could give Jeannine a plug, she makes these wonderful masks, and we're going to employ her to make little Canadian studies masks with little,
nice.
She doesn't know that yet, but we're going to make branded Canadian studies masks. So,
no.
Okay. And then Mark, last but not least, Mark Dickinson. And Mark, we actually asked Mark to speak last, not because he is least, but because he has a couple of things that he wants to talk about himself and his courses, and then some of the initiatives he's been doing with our undergraduate roundtable that we'd like him to talk to. And that will segue certainly into some of our discussion about students. And Jeannine, how many students do we have online?
In this meeting right now? Yeah. There's about 25, close to 30 students, which is really great. And we are so happy you made this time to join us.
Fabulous.
Okay, so here we go to Mark.
Hi, everybody. How are you? Important, I think, to acknowledge these strange circumstances and the artifice of these platforms that we're sort of forced to work through. It's my conviction, though, that meaningful experiences always have a way of getting through to us. Something meaningful and something good always reaches us, regardless of the platform, regardless of whether we're in a classroom or talking to each other through these computer screens. So I'll tell you very briefly about the 3 courses that I'm teaching this fall. The first is Canada the Land. This is one of the original flagship courses in Canadian Studies. One of the things that we do in Canada the Land is we actually invite students onto the land. That's an element of Canada the Land that's been present in that course since 1972 when John Wadland took students up to Temagami. We've decided, though, to expand upon that experiential dimension and have students choose for themselves a sitting spot. So you'll be spending a lot of time outside in this course, and you'll be journaling. So the assignments are also unorthodox. And I think one of the deep initiatives behind Canada the Land, as I've reconceived that course, is can we sort of go beyond the land address and all this talk we have of land addresses to an entirely different understanding of what the land actually is. So can we move beyond a colonial mindset and take seriously the ontological, epistemological, and cosmological claims of First Nations peoples? Can we recognize the land as more than just natural resources, but a profound source of meaning and instruction? The second course I'm doing this fall is called Documenting Canada. This is a contemporary issues course. It involves entirely contemporary documentary films. We look at those documentary films to sort of get a handle on some of the issues that are vexing us at this time. To build off something that Professor Dummitt talked about. In his course, you'll have a chance to make a podcast, and in Documenting Canada, you'll have a chance to make a documentary film of your own, specifically relating to your experiences with the coronavirus pandemic. Would you like to sort of, translate into film or into another medium of your choice, your experiences over the last 6 months, so that we continually remind ourselves just how abnormal these times have been. And hopefully a project like that can help us digest some of the things that have been happening to us. The last course I'm teaching this fall is called Canada in the 1960s. And this course I've reconceived as a quest course. The 1960s were a tremendously dynamic period in Canadian history, as the other professors in on this call can attest. I approached the 60s through the motif of the quest or journey and focus in on individuals from a number of different cultures here in Canada who tried to reach outside of the colonial mindset for something lacking or missing from post-war Canadian society. So that's Canada in the 60s. The last thing I wanted to mention, I'm involved in setting up a number of undergraduate roundtable discussions. These all approach or address contemporary issues and events of one sort or another. Last year, for instance, we looked at the controversy around Don Cherry, the remarks he made on Hockey Night in Canada that led to his abrupt departure, and to the presence of racism in hockey and the hockey culture itself. In May, online, we did one on systemic racism. This in the immediate wake of the George Floyd execution in the US. If I were to propose, just off the top of my hat, a potential topic for this fall that we could do online, it would be statue toppling. And these conversations usually revolve around or start from a newspaper article that students are asked to read beforehand. And then we simply convene around that topic. And so, given what happened to the statue of John A. Macdonald, perhaps that's one direction to move in for this fall. One of the things, though, that underlies those roundtable discussions, as well as all my courses, and this builds off things that the other faculty members mentioned as well. Only a conversation open to a diversity of perspectives can truly grasp the complexity of an issue. So one of the things that we're hoping to instill within you as students, we'd like you to be nimble-minded. We would like you to be nimble-minded thinkers. These roundtables also provide us an opportunity to check against absolutism in different forms, and to recognize the presence of totalizing ideologies at work in our culture, totalizing ideologies of both the right and the left. So those are some of the things that I'll be doing this semester. Again, meaning finds us, meaningful experiences find us regardless of the platforms we're working on, something you'll hear me say again and again in my classes. It's so nice to see you all, and it's so nice to see Professor Symons, and I hope we have a great semester together. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mark. And I don't know, is Heather still may be muted, but our next up, we have Rachael Cummings and Cameron Ewing, who are both veteran cast majors, and they are going to talk to you about the student society and some activities they might have for the fall. And I may try to show some pictures of some things that have happened in the past. So you may get some weird screen sharing in the process, and hopefully it's not cat pictures. Do it right.
Hello, my name's Rachael Cummings. I go by she, her pronouns. I am a fourth year Canadian Studies student and vice president of the CSSA, which is the Canadian Studies Student Association, which we've started last year. But I'm going to hand it off to our president, Cameron, to talk more about the CSSA here.
Thanks, Rachel. As Rachel said, my name is Cameron. I use they, them pronouns. And yeah, I'm the president of the CSSA. I am also a third year Canadian Studies major here at Trent University. So yeah, we did quite a few events last year. Of course, with this year being COVID and everything, we're going to have some issues with doing events, but we are always here to be doing fun things and to be having a good time with everyone. So our group is student run. Currently there's 3 of us due to people coming and going from the school. So there's myself, the president, Rachel, who's the vice president, and then a teaching education history English joint major named Heather Robinson, who acts as our secretary. So we're not just Canadian Studies students, we have a wide array of students, and anyone is welcome at our group. We are focused a lot on looking at and appreciating Canadian culture, history, politics, and heritage, especially in new and fun ways that don't involve just sitting in the classroom and involve getting out there and talking to people and making those connections that are so, so important. We'll be hosting events throughout the school year, probably mostly movie nights, chats with professors or other people, stuff like that. Maybe even some fun events if the university opens back up more in the winter semester. There's a picture on the screen from our winter carnival. It wasn't, mostly Mark Dickinson ran it. However, the CSSA was able to get involved and help to run the event. And it was a huge success. Lots of people came out. And so hopefully we'll be able to do something like that this year or maybe even next year. Usually we have student retreats to Windy Pine as well. Unfortunately, we do not have that this year due to COVID and Windy Pine being closed. However, hopefully in the coming years, we'll be able to start that back up again and get back to Windy Pine. Windy Pine is owned by the Canadian Studies Department. And it's just a bunch of cabins on Cushog Lake, I believe. Yeah, so yeah, it's a lot of fun. We're always looking for new students to join us and to come and work with us. We aren't an official group yet, just because we don't have enough people. So if you are interested, or if you're even interested in like giving us your vote of confidence, just please let us know. We also have a lot of resources for first years, and so that includes Rebound, the student accessibility services, counseling, etc., through links on our Instagram and Facebook. And if you have any questions, whether you're a new student, returning student, or if you just want to get in touch, you can message us through our Instagram, which is Trent CSSA, or on our Facebook page. So yeah.
Well, that's great. Thanks so much, Cam and Rachel. And I think yeah, for those who are interested in joining those groups, we'll circulate the links. And I guess that I am the last speaker before we open it up to questions. And I know there were some students who were interested in introducing themselves. They may actually have been people who left for the fire drill. There's a fire drill at Champlain right now. And also a health and safety note, always leave when you hear a fire drill because you never know when it's not a drill. So I thought I would share some information about scholarships and awards in the School for the Study of Canada, because we are incredibly fortunate in what we have that we can share for students and make things a little easier for you. There's several kinds of awards that we have through the school. There are scholarships, which are, ours are all major scholarships because they're quite significant. There's bursaries, which are based on financial need. And then there's essay prizes and awards. So I'll start actually with bursaries. You can come to our website and you can see information on all of these awards. Bursaries are ones you need to have applied for, for most cases, you need to have applied for OSAP and qualified for it, but there are some that are not linked to that. The deadlines for applying to bursaries, you do it through the financial aid portal. And the deadlines right now, it's open from September 8th to 30th for fall bursaries. And then from January 6th to 31st for the spring session bursaries. And as you can see, there's a number of these. Canadian Studies is fortunate to have such a history of people who just really support what the program's doing. So all of these funds have been money donated to the university, which is really wonderful. And John Wadlin as well as one of our founding faculty. Our major scholarships, again, we're very fortunate. The Ralph McEwen Scholarship is a recent one we've been managing. It's between $1,500 and $2,500. Is mostly for students finishing second year just because of when courses are scheduled. One is for Canadian literature, someone who specializes in that field in their coursework, and then one is for Canadian social history. So we collect grades from all students at the university who took courses in either of those two disciplines. We assess who's got the highest average and the most number of courses, and support that scholarship for them. The Mary Northway one is one. Mary Northway is the reason we have much of the resources at the Battle Library. Also, why we have Whitney Pine. It was her property she ran as a girls out country camp. And this is for 1 or 2 students with the highest average going into their 4th year, and it is $2,500. The Carolyn Thompson Scholarship is one that's really close to my heart. And actually Rachel, if I may say, is one of our recipients in the past. Carolyn Thompson was a cast major, one of the first ones, I think. Or she was contemporary with me. She was in the 90s. There's a tree planted at Trail in her honor. And because of the support of donors and people who honor her legacy, we've been able to award it to 2 students entering into the 2nd or 3rd years of the Canadian Studies program for majors and joint majors. And those are $2,200 for 1 year. And then there's other ones that are administered through financial aid or the Department of English. And then to award coursework, we have the Symons essay prizes, which are contributed and supported by Professor Symons, who is here, and his wife Christine. And right now, there is one which is for the highest average in the largest number of first-year courses. It's an award of $400, and then from 2nd, 3rd, and 4th year courses, it's awarded to a student based on faculty nominations of outstanding work. The Historical Atlas Prize is a similar one to an exceptional paper on a Canadian subject in any course at Trent, and it's for $350. And these all appear in your transcripts, so they are good for when you're applying to grad school or you're applying for jobs even. You can put these things on your resumes. And then the Verdun Book Prize is a book prize, and you actually get a book which was chosen by the faculty member teaching Canadian women's writing, who this year is Professor Margaret Steffler in the the Department of English. And yeah, it's just a nice recognition of work people have done. For international students, we have the Canadian Studies International Student Travel Prize. We're revisioning what that might look like right now with travel restrictions, but in the past, it has funded people to travel all across Canada, from Vancouver to Newfoundland. A student went to Montreal and did research at the NFB. And this past summer, it was a student who was doing research in Haliburton. And then we also have the Undergraduate Fund for the Study of Canada, which is one which students can apply to for a specific project they want to work on, as well as faculty can do so. And it's supported some of our retreats to Windy Pine, which you saw images of earlier. And this summer it was to send a student to Finland or Iceland, I can't remember, but due to COVID, their travel was had to be postponed. So hopefully when things open up, they can continue. It was to be part of a student Arctic Council, Arctic Council. So that is what I had to say about awards. And just to say, just feel free, like if you want to email me if you have questions about stuff, if you're having trouble navigating Trent because it's a little confusing right now without so much physical support, feel free to email me. I only work part-time, so I'm not always available to respond right away, but I do eventually get through my inbox. And I'm going to open this up to questions. So if anybody has questions, or if they'd like to introduce themselves as a new Trent or CAS student, feel free to unmute your mic and have a word. And if you like, I can stop recording the meeting right now, or if you like, I can continue recording the meeting. So.
Doesn't matter to me, but I will introduce myself and then ask a question that I know has probably already been answered, but I had to run out for the fire drill. So first of all, I'm Elisa. I am in my first year of Canadian Studies at Trent. So if you are also in first year Canadian Studies, feel free to send me like a message on the side of the Zoom chat, and then we can talk for a bit, because it would be nice to meet other people in the program because it's kind of a niche program. And then the second thing that I was going to ask about is I left in the middle of the one prof talking about the roundtable discussions that he was doing. I was wondering if he had, or if there was anybody, or like if they had said how we could like kind of like join those roundtable discussions, because like the statue toppling thing was something that's kind of interesting to me and has a tie to my community back home. So I was wondering if he had said how we could join those roundtable discussions.
Okay, is Mark still there?
I am still here. I am still present. Hi, Elisa, nice to meet you. I like what you were saying about trying to meet other people right now, because it is a niche program and it's important to take advantage of moments like this to reach out and see who else is around. To answer your question, you know, you're more than welcome to join us at those roundtable meetings. We'll be posting far and wide about them when they do take place. And we can take it from there. It's great to hear that you're interested in the topic. If you're even more interested in the topic, the Globe and Mail wrote an excellent editorial on the subject in either yesterday or today's newspaper. So thanks for your question.
Okay, is there anyone else? Thank you, Elise, that was great. And yeah. Anyone else?
Jeannine, Tom probably would just, if there are no more questions, we might just ask students or let students know, Tom, if you want to say just a quick word about your willingness to work with them. But if there really are no more questions.
Yeah, I think it looks, is there anyone else who had a question?
Or wants to introduce themselves?
Or if anybody would like to send a question by way of the chat mechanism, that's a little less intimidating than unmuting your microphone and speaking directly to us. So we'll happily take questions by chat as well.
Yeah.
And actually, so I'll just interrupt for a second. Chris Dummitt here. Sometimes I know like Mark was saying, it can be a bit intimidating. I'm sure, Mark, I'm happy to stick around after the official meeting is over. I'm happy to stick around and chat, to ask any questions or answer any questions on a much more informal basis.
Sounds good.
Yeah. Well, that's a great idea, and especially there'll be fewer people and maybe even a little more time. So if at this point, maybe I might just ask Tom just to sort of talk about how he has worked with students over the last year or so, and extend an invitation for you to work with him if you would like.
Sure, thank you. I'd be delighted to work with any student or groups of students who have an area that they want to explore in depth in the Canadian studies field. My own particular areas are cultural history and the formulation of public policy, but also human rights. I've been chairman of the Human Rights Commission and have written a Human Rights Code, and international relations. Canada's involvement with the rest of the world has been a lifelong interest, and I've chaired the Association of 800 Universities of the Commonwealth in 51 countries and visited them all over the last 40 years. But I'd very much enjoy chatting with any student at any time. Please either find me out or just call me at home. And I look forward to seeing you at the university. Good luck.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you. And Tom worked with a student last year who was interested in Lavalin. Tom had a lot of information on Lavalin, and that student has since gone on to Oxford University, correct?
Yes.
So yeah. So we're so willing to speak with you and talk with you and get you where you need to be. Myself, Tom, all of the faculty, Jeannine, the students who have been there before, and student associations, everybody is just so willing to work with you and to get you launched, not just in your degree, but also to help with your interest in Canadian studies. So I'm going to share now back to Jeannine. I feel like we're news broadcasters. It's back to you, Jeannine, and see if there's any other questions, or whether we'd like to give people the opportunity to leave that want to, and if there's others that want to stick around in a smaller group with any further sort of queries.
Yeah.
But I want to thank you, Rachel, as well, for doing this.
Yes, thank you, Rachel, for helping set this up and organizing the agenda and stuff like that. And thank you for Cameron for joining, and for all the faculty who made time in their very busy, like the night before Christmas Day, before school starts. And thank you so much, Professor Symons. It's always a lovely pleasure to see you. So glad we could connect this way. Yeah, I'm going to stop recording the meeting now, and I will open this up for whoever wants to stay or leave. And the space will be open as long as you need it. Okay? Thank you so much for coming. Thank you, students.